This has to be one of the greatest, if not greatest episodes yet for Successful Scales. I sat down with Casey Wu, and very quickly you're going to understand just how valuable or invaluable his insights are, from Wall Street with a military background into venture, private markets, private equity, building a 1,200 person community of operators, and looking at a business or businesses rather from a very unique lens. This was the most insightful conversation that I believe I've had, and even now I'm sitting and trying to process and reflect all of the wisdom that Casey shared. If you're someone who is a builder, who's trying to build business, who's trying to find their way in this world of entrepreneurship, growth, scale, and everything in between, this one is for you. I cannot stress how valuable the next 45 minutes of your time will be if you sit down and listen to what he has to share. So sit back, strap yourself in, because it is an absolute fire hose of information, and you're not going to want to miss a minute. All right, guys, super excited to be back here, and do I have a treat for you? I am sat here with Casey Wu, who is someone that I've looked to lock down on this podcast for a while. Super impressive operator. You know, I like to have my guests introduce themselves because I'll never do them justice. But the one thing I'll say before I hand it off to Casey is that we didn't hit record for 20 minutes. I was so fascinated by his story, I virtually forgot to hit record. So you're going to get a lot of it. And I've taken a lot of notes ahead of schedule. So without further ado, Casey, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, thanks for having me. I guess the short background is I've had about 3-4 careers: military, Wall Street, startup operator, and now I would call it, investor, VC / community leader. And I think the takeaway is, I learned a lot by doing a lot of different things, and writing a little book about it because I wanted to help others like me. Where the short version is I went to West Point, then I went to Harvard, and was told that the 2 steps to nirvana for an economics major is go to Wall Street. I did that, went to investment banking, first step, and the second step is get a hedge fund job or private equity job and just make a lot of money and retire, which absolutely works. For some reason, it wasn't for me. And I realized I loved building at early stage. So I've done 6 different stints, or what I call deployments or missions, from seed all the way to pre-IPO, in a bunch of different facilities: CFO, COO, biz ops, CEO, founder. And along the way, I think the thing that I'm most interested and proud of is I got lonely and started a 9-person community called the Operators Guild. It was for the people that don't code or sell. So I think there's people who build, people who sell, and people who scale. There's the 3 types of people at a tech company. And the scalers were really relatively unknown, almost like misfits. When I came 15 years ago, it was, if you're not an engineer, you're not a product person, you're not a sales, you're not a marketing person, what are you? You're just back office. You're what they call G&A. And yet I came from Wall Street, where finance was everything. It was the most valuable type of person. So long story short, that 9-person is now 1,200. It became so big, I could no longer go back to a operating role. So I now lead the Operators Guild full time. We're 1,200 members, 20 chapters around the world. We host 120 events for the best operators in tech, CFOs and COOs, CEOs of companies you've definitely heard of. It's been wonderful, and I might give back. And then separately, FOG Ventures is the investing arm of the Operators Guild. FOG stands for Operators Guild. We have a unique model that has made us a top syndicate, because we are a persona-based syndicate where we are the operators in a group rather than an affiliation of people with money. And that allows us to be very uniquely strategic value, because we're the buyers and builders of B2B. So we do tier 1 B2B deals, and my entire world is helping scalers.
Awesome. I mean, that was a dense background, but candidly didn't actually cover like all of the incredible things that Casey is up to. I'm gonna launch into like almost rapid fire questions because I feel like there's just so much knowledge, and the diversity of your skill set is just so highly valuable for anyone who's trying to understand. I think you put it really eloquently. It's the people that are the engine room of scale are often the ones that are both least visible and provided the least amount of credit as to the value. And I take it from a personal perspective. If I were to sort of put myself into the buckets that you outlined, like I'm the sales guy. I sit across sales and marketing and growth. My co-founder is the operator, and without that yin and yang, you get nowhere. You can have the best operator in the world, but if you can't sell it, then it's nothing. And you could have the best salesperson in the world, but if you can't operate, you sort of fall apart. So you need to find that. And so really the first question that I have for you, because you have done so many things, is what is it? You've went 6 rounds of starting businesses, and you explicitly said that you really enjoy the early stage. So what is it that draws you to early stage? And the next portion of it is, what is early stage to you? Because I feel like a lot of people can see these things somewhat differently.
It's a great question, because I discovered through all this, there's a very distinctive thing about early stage. Early stage to me is specifically high growth, generally VC backed, it's kind of low capital intensity type of businesses that, I don't know if you want to call it in general, like under 500 people, under 1,000 people. In Silicon Valley language, it's probably Series C and earlier is roughly what I would call early stage. And what I realized very uniquely, and I call it business physics, the commonality between all businesses is the human. In every business, there's humans. And humans have limitations, and humans have a way they work. It's part of the book I'm writing, which is, I discovered business physics. The larger an organization gets, the more specialized a human becomes. Like IBM, I'm making it up, probably has 200 people who do payroll. That's all they do. Why? Because it got so big. And hear me out on this analogy, and then I think I'll answer a bunch of questions about early stage and the operator. Look at the military. I was there for a little bit. Army, Navy, Air Force. Every single military in the world is Army, Navy, Air Force. Why not just military? Because when things get big, humans need to categorize. Land, sea, and air. It's an efficiency thing that humans are not AI. They have to do a thing, right? Specialize when you get big. Well, what's an early stage? Small. So funny enough, the bigger you get, the more specialized, when everything is a spectrum, right? So the smaller you get, the more you generalize. A founder of a 1-person, 2-person shop is doing everything. There is no Army, Navy, Air Force. It's just fight. And I take it one step further, and this is my aha moment. Why do militaries create special forces? 100 years ago, by the way. Special forces, which is Navy SEAL, Delta Force, made popular by Venezuela. Why? You have millions of other military. Why don't you just use them? It's a completely different task and mission. Special forces is highly nimble, 10-person squads, highly specific and custom to a certain thing, and they're in and out. Well, guess what early stage is? A Series A is a mission. Uber is a war. You become big enough where you specialize. No different, because humans are the commonality. Early stage operators, or the Operators Guild, are the special forces of business. It was created because wars, air quote, which is business, right? Business is a different form of war, has now gone into guerrilla warfare. Fast, 10-person, 50-person. So guess what all these people do? They're generalists. A Navy SEAL eats, kills, swims. Look at their training. Look at our training. I know a little bit of finance. I know org. I know culture. I understand marketing, websites, KPIs, business. That's it. And why do I like it? Well, there's neurodivergence. It's a whole other thing. Very high indexing on ADHD. It's a personality thing. So I strongly believe that just like dogs, humans have breeds. So the last little rant I'm going to do, if you go to an accounting conference or a legal conference or a doctor conference or a sales conference, do you think it's a coincidence they're all alike? No. Accountants have a very specific type of personality. So do lawyers. So do doctors. So do Navy SEALs. So do salespeople. Generally pretty gregarious in a relationship. Why? Because we have a wiring that makes us better than another human at something. Sports, same thing. Genetics. Anyways, that's where it is. My genetics and the genetics of 1,200 people I spoke to, I realized were very similar. We're curious, high impact, impatient. Some of us are ADHD or neurodivergent. A lot of founders are like that. Highly creative, business artists. You combine all that, we do not like corporate. We don't like slow. We don't like, I'm looking at you. You are definitely one of us, right?
Yeah.
So thrill. It's a thrill. We're like junkies. So that's really it. We're the business artists or the special forces of business.
Dude, I love those analogies so much. I give you more. I don't even want to ask questions. I just want to let you monologue here, Casey. But it's so well, like it's so poignant. It's so right. Like, I mean, I'm in a reality. I didn't go to the military, but I live in a semi-active, soon to be probably active war zone again. And all of my friends have, most of my friends are special forces. My co-founder is elite, military. And it's just, you've hit the nail on the head. That is what the thrill is. It's that it is so dynamic in nature, and it's not a war. It's a fight, and it's going through that process of solving complex tasks really quickly and coming in and out and understanding what that push-pull needs to look like. And you can do that forever because it's perpetually changing. And so even I feel like in your analogies, you've answered questions that I was going to ask you, because it's so clear. Like, why have you been drawn to building the community that you've built?
Exactly. To me, we're builders. Like, I already knew in like the first 5 minutes with you, you have like multiple businesses. How is that possible? Because you're a problem solver. You get addicted to the next problem. That's what entrepreneurial is. So it's not a coincidence that people that love problem solving or run toward chaos, we get a thrill. You can call it addiction. You can call it a high from the next problem to solve, because business is a game.
Yep.
And so anyways, but that thrill, what I'm talking about. And probably a lot of people listening, if you know it, you know if you know. But it's built in us. It's built in us. And that's why I can tell you right now, unless you had to, you're not going to corporate. I already know, and I met you for 10 minutes, right? That's the personality. I see a hunting dog, and I'm going to tell you right now, that hunting dog is not going to sit still.
Yeah.
You see the breed, your career path and what you do can be a lot more aligned.
Yeah, it's spot on. It's spot on. So there's so many pathways. I like the sensitivity around neurodivergent, where I'm just like, yeah, I've got ADD. I'm like, it's not, yeah. Of course. But so you're also someone, you've been in so many different startups. You've done some really interesting things. I mean, you didn't name all the companies, but I can imagine, when you were spending your time at WeWork on global head of strategic finance. What year was that? 20. So interesting times probably interesting times to be in a role like that. So that actually probably aligns with the interest, because while it was at a corporate stage, I mean, you were probably dealing with a real shitstorm of realities at that point in the journey. But I find it really fascinating where you've gone from, eating glass was the term that you used, that I think you borrowed from Elon Musk before we hit record, to building something that is, I mean, far more scalable in nature. I would guess, again, I'm making assumptions here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's value aligned. You want to empower those of the path that you've walked through who, didn't understand who their breed was or who their partners were and how it works. But it's the combination of the community with Fog Ventures that I find particularly interesting. And I guess the question that I have for you in that is, what started first, and did one roll into the other?
Oh yeah. So OG started 11 years ago, almost 12, I think. Fog started in COVID, about 2000. And what happened with Fog was I had a tier one VC partner call me and said, "Hey, Casey, take a look at this deal, this pitch deck." I'm like, I mind you, I'm a CFO, COO, still working at, WeWork or other companies. But, my passion hobby was this group that, we run on the weekends. And he said, no, the reason I'm calling you is because you guys use this product. It's the first time an operator tool mattered. What mattered before was engineering and sales, Salesforce, Atlassian. No one's building for finance and ops, and HR started to happen. We became people officers, not HR, right? So as they're becoming strategic. So 2000 is a time where like CFO, COOs mattered. They weren't just G&A. That's basically what happened. And then I said, wait, so what happens if we like one of these? He goes, if you like one of these many operator deals, we're going to cut a term sheet. And it was very simple. By the way, I was a hedge fund investor in consumer. So I was a professional public equity investor, and I learned through all that time, ask the customer. Name me an enormous company without happy customers. You can't. It's very simple. Two ways to get money: investors, creditors, both the same, and customers. You want the second one. A lot of that, a lot less of the first one. That's very simple. So the world came around to scaling because sales and product weren't good enough. Everyone's got a product, everyone can sell. Scaling, speed and complexity basically, became the new 10Xer. Operations, And anyways, so that's where Fog started and became a top syndicate. Because when I talk to founders only want three things. All CEOs and founders in the world really only focus on three things: money, customers,
time,
and talent. Yeah,
talent,
talent and money. Money, customers, and talent. Now, generally customers. Money is now plentiful. That is what's changed in the world. But here's the thing that people don't realize about investing. I'm going to simplify, but there's only two types of investments: those that are hot and those that are not. If you're a great founder and you're hot, money is going to be the easiest thing for you. Now, you can take bets on the not, sure. But if you're hot and you like them, you like the founder, there's a huge premium. That means there's scarcity. So how do you get an allocation, right? At the end of the day, you can identify hot. Okay, great. I know who the Stripe guys are. Great. Can you get an investment? It doesn't matter if you can't invest. So we are a very distinct strategic value, which as a CFO, as an investor, and an operator, I came full circle and realized, wait, what do I care about if I'm a CFO or CEO raising money? Money, but there's a lot of money out there. Customers, talent. You go to Jamie Dimon or you go to any CEO and go, I got 10 customers for you. Jensen's flying around talking to customers. Right. So anyways, we are the buyers and builders. And that is one of the most fun things that have happened. And it got birthed out of OG.
Super cool. Super cool. So take me through the process. When Fog is looking at a potential opportunity, you come clearly with a unique angle. Like you've seen operations time and time again. And so to your point, if money is plentiful and there's a way obviously to attract customers, then it's that combination that you articulated, that the speed and scale, I think, was the connective tissue there. What does an experience look like? How are you identifying opportunities, and what would you uniquely see, or the company and how you're sort of operating it? What are the uniques that you bring to the table that would sort of essentially your DD process?
Yes, correct. So the first thing is we focus on what we understand. We are B2B buyers. So we generally do not do consumer, biotech, energy, things that are, out of our field. So anything in B2B are the things that our operators purchase. let's go to market products, CFO stack, workflow, engineering flow, anything within a fast growing business. We're scalers. So if you think about like the Navy SEAL analogy, these are the weapons and the tools, and we use them all the time. So you're very familiar with, show me the new cool arsenal tool, AI bot, whatever it is. That's the first thing and I'm one of them. So if I look at it and I don't understand, that's not going to work. Like I'm literally a representative. The second is a little more simple, which is what we call tier one heuristics. You can talk to any VC, right? An obvious one is traction. Yeah. What have they done? You can just see the speed at which something is tracking. We know this because we're the builders. So we know what fast looks like. We've seen fast. We've seen slow. So that's one. The other is, of course, founders, right? So it's always the people. We work with a ton of them. We can gauge their tenacity, their drive, their judgment. So that's one. Another is, of course, the problem they're trying to solve. Is it big enough? The coolest part is we're the buyers. So if we're sitting there and you just pitched us for 30 minutes and we're not excited, well, neither is a prospect, right? So it's actually, the DD is actually crazy simple. If we get excited, that means your sales process is probably going pretty well. If we're confused or we're like, but I have this, but I can use that, I don't really need that, you're going to have a hard time. So we became a go-to-market boot camp test.
Interesting.
Literal. And then, of course, so that's the DD process. The other thing is the community and VCs know us. So they'll say, hey, have you heard of X? Have you heard of Y? That generally means something's bubbling up. So we have a lot of signal that comes out of the noise. And the last part of DD is I just call the customers or prospects. I have an entire community. It's so fast for me to say, these 4 competitors in this category, there's generally only 3 or 4 in every category. What do you think? You talk to 10 people, you'd be shocked how fast you can start stack ranking. The biggest one I tell people is if you hear someone say, I signed up for company A, I churned and left for company B. Company B is generally way out there. Company B is like the one you want to bet on. So it's a complete reverse market share. Anyways, and then of course we approach the founder CEO. We have a very unique value prop of supporting through buyers and builders, promotion, amplification, advisory that is so spot on with their ICP. And then on the other side, all these operators get into great deals. So it's like a win-win-win for everyone.
Yeah, super, super interesting. And yeah, I mean, I just sit here to your point around problem solving. I'm like, wow, if I had an arsenal of all these operators that are doing DD, maybe there's even a model where I can put some of these operators in these businesses and really accelerate their growth, which I'm sure you've already thought about. I'm going to switch gears for a second. I've got probably like 3 other core topics, and I'm just like mindful of time, and I'm sure there's going to be more that are unlocked. But one thing that I personally find difficult and that I wrestle with is that we are a bootstrapped 8-figure business. We did it in 5 years, and we hit that mark in 5 years. And I'm in a sea here in Tel Aviv of the fastest growing VC-backed companies in the world, and a lot of my friends work at these companies. And you listen to the capital that they've raised and the targets that they need to hit in a quarter. We do it in a month. Like it's a crazy thing for me to look at. And so you have a really unique, you have lots of unique lenses, but one of the things that I also picked up on is that, you're hedge fund investing in public companies and you're sort of looking at the lens from there, but then you're getting pulled into startups and the VC. Yep. So like you theoretically, I would assume like you could have gone the PE route. You could have gone, working with, much larger organizations. You obviously have the passion for these smaller businesses, but I'd love to understand sort of your general analysis of the VC experience and the relationship with VC to founders and just like the ecosystem. Like help me understand it, because I always from the outside struggle.
I love that question because I happen to be in all these different stages and different industries. I started to piece together what I call spectrums. So I believe all of life is a spectrum. So for example, if we're talking about businesses, let's go to stage spectrum. So once you understand the general direction, I think you can, garner a lot of information depending on what you need. So for example, the larger a company, the less it's about the people. It's about the machine. Amazon. Bezos is very important, but not as important as he was when he was 10 people, right? So just think about an extreme. So think now, if you understand that, let's talk about investing. Public equity investing is large. So when I was a public, what am I looking at? Metrics, moat, KPIs, growth, efficiency, consistency. Why? That's a machine. That's how you value. NVIDIA is a machine. Like, oh my God, yes, Jensen is at the premium. But NVIDIA is still pretty valuable if Jensen weren't running it today, right? Apple, same thing. Lost Steve Jobs, right? Now let's get to the small. VCs don't look at big public companies. They don't look at a lot of metrics because there are none. In fact, the metrics they look at are going to change tomorrow. So guess what they look at, everyone? I'm going to get pause for the audience. People. They look at you. They look at you. VCs are very social. They're experts at looking at the person. Public equity, my friends who are some of the best in the world at it, are extremely good at looking at business models and sustainability and growth and market dynamics. Notice I didn't say a lot about people. If a CEO leaves, the stock goes down like 5%. If a CEO leaves an early stage, it might be over. The whole thing's over. Maybe there's no more funding. So that is one thing when you talk about, I'm an investor in both, right? I've been an investor. I've been in PE as well. PE is in the middle. It's a little bit about the people operating it, generating the EBITDA. And then it's about the machine, right? You're purchasing something that has EBITDA. So it's an exact spectrum. Half people, half metrics in PE. I'm very social. So that's one reason I learned. I tell audiences, if you're looking at what you want to do, don't just look at the prestige or the money. You have to look at the environment. I'm a team player. Well, guess what? Have you seen The Big Short, the movie? The hedge fund guy? He has no team himself. No one told me that. I had a beautiful corner office, making a lot of money, and I was miserable. What? Why am I miserable? With the military, I wasn't miserable. I was digging ditches, though. And making $100 a month. Team. Because my breed is a hunting dog.
Super interesting. Such an interesting, like, even just listening to it's kind of reframed my whole psychology around VC. Like, one of the things that I've always wrestled with is that, what's the hit rate? It's like 1 in 10 or 1 in 20. Like for a stat, it's like it's relatively low. And I always sort of looked at it as a founder from the lens of, you could have these incredible founders who are injected with a bunch of cash and the environment wasn't right. The decisions that, like, all of these things happened and you essentially fucked this founder who could have been brilliant, but because you tried to accelerate their growth, and obviously they were a part of the story, are you ruining their careers? Are they actually getting the guardrails they need to go through? But when I actually invert it, I always looked at PE or, moving up that chain, it's more secure. But when I hear sort of how you frame it as that social thing, I mean, VC obviously is more exciting, and the decisions and sort of the push-pull of the things that you're making decisions on become a lot more visceral in nature and a lot more sort of tactful, and you have to feel it and touch it and sniff it. You can't just look at spreadsheets to really understand. I mean, you need to understand the TAM, you need to understand where you're headed, but it's so much more about the people. So it's reframed it. But for me, so just sharing like a sort of an epiphany moment that you've helped sort of craft for me here. I'll let you jump in.
VCs is think about the math. So the other thing about physics is financial math. So VCs need to make money for their investors. Public equity investors need to make money for their investors. Public equity, because of the size and liquidity you're working with, does not need to have volatility. In fact, it's more compounding because it's big. So they look for steady trends, not volatility. Now, of course, some do outsized things like, they saw Amazon before it was Amazon. Right? That's where you make a lot of money. VCs have to look around the corner because a single and double does not add up to returning the fund. So when you bet on 100 lotto tickets, you can't have the lotto ticket only make you 2x because all the other 90, it's just math. So guess what VCs that are successful have to do? Because if you're not going to get more money. All the best VCs have some kind of visionary element to them, or some kind of risk-taking that's outside the box. They bet when others don't believe. That is a very, very unique. Whereas right now, a lot of people are betting on NVIDIA making money. It's not a contrarian thing, right? So you can still make a lot of money in public, but it's really contrarian, seeing things that people don't, seeing the future, that I think is really unique about VCs.
Yeah, super interesting. Super interesting to look at it from that lens, to really sort of reassess where that sits, and that that has to make sense. So then the fund manager, the people making investments, the team around the fund is so critical. Yeah, it's such a,
personalities are so different.
Yeah, super interesting. I can't progress anymore without you at least going deeper into the book that you have written here. Can you elaborate? Can you give us a little bit more on the book? Is it available?
Yeah, it's not. We're still working on it. The book is basically, what it's trying to do is shed light for so many people that might be lost in their jobs, not sure why they don't fit. The working title is called Black Sheep, because I felt like a black sheep. So I did academically well. I went to a prestigious place called Wall Street, made a bunch of money, but I didn't fit in. And I thought I was a loser. I thought I was not as good as my friends, and I couldn't handle it. And then I found early stage tech. I just realized I was a bird trying to swim. The book is about describing this new environment that has never in human history been available, which is hypergrowth, hyperscale, sophistication at small company size. Because it used to be businesses where if you're small, you're like nonprofit and you're the pizza shop, and it's like not where prestigious, talented, overachieving people go. It's, not as sophisticated, right? Translation, not as much money. Translation, less compensation. So everyone went to Wall Street, management consulting, IBM. The world is flipping to guerrilla warfare, where people at OpenAI don't need to work anymore. But it's a small company. So I think the general theme of the book is there's never been a better time to be ADD, to be horizontal generalists. Here's what we look like. Here's why the world is set up for you now, especially with AI. Here's the tips and tricks and skill sets of amazing special forces operators in business, and then potential career paths. So it's kind of like a welcome home. You're not alone. Embrace it. And if you're lost, there's communities for you. But before, I thought I was alone.
Yeah, super. I mean, I can't wait for it to be completed and to read it. It's I think for a lot of people, even just hearing sort of the baseline premise, it'll help shed a lot of light into the things that were their uniques and where they were divergent to others in the way that they saw things, and why they didn't fit in these places that they felt like they should have fit. And you can get, it's funny. It's like I do the math of when I made the decision to go and start a company and take no salary for a year or a year and a half, and minimum wage and all this stuff. And it took me 7 years to make the money that I made more than when I was at 30 years old, 29 years old. And I wouldn't change it for the world, because what I've learned, how I've grown, what I've done is just, I've had a lot of fucking challenges, but it's fun. And you get to a point where it's like, it's not going to kill me. I'm going to figure a way out of it.
I call it, there's a post I wrote called love of the game. I think there's two people that do what we do. One that thinks they're going to be rich and pick meta. And the other is, we love the game. We love building. And I told him, if you do it for number one, you might get royally disappointed. If you do it for number two, you might actually make a buck, but even if you don't, it's so fulfilling. And it's so clear that you love the game.
Yeah. Well, I think also, like, from that logic too, if you love the game, then the byproduct will be the success on the back of it. And that's not what I'm not, like, obviously we all want financial freedom. We all want to be in a position where money is not an object for us, but I've never at any point been like, I need to hit this number or this metric. I'm building for the love of the game. And we're running out of time here. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left here. And you touched on a topic that I'm very curious to hear your position. I wanted to actually share my screen with you, but I was telling you before, I've had these issues with each time I share my screen, it crashes. I don't know if you saw on Twitter yesterday, but I can probably try and find a link of what it is. But there was a graphic that came up, and I'm just going to explain it to you. You'll get it straight away. It says each dot is 3.2 million people. 2,500 dots equals 8.1 billion humans. Colors equals most advanced AI interactions, February 2026. And so you look at the whole graph, 84%, 6.8 billion people have never used AI. You have 1.3 billion that have used free chat bot uses, 16%. 0.3% are paying $20 or more a month for AI, and users coding scaffolding is less than about 2 million, or between 2 and 5 million, equating to 0.04% of the world's current population. And when I saw this, my reality was I've got to stay ahead. I've got to push forward. I've got to get really deep really quickly because everything's going to change. And what I learned in this graph is that I'm so far an outlier in the scaffolding that we've already built, and sort of the reality of where things sit, that I shouldn't be as concerned about like how quickly these things are going to move. But I guess it's a twofold question for you is, there's AI and it's like it's hard in a really short period of time to sort of cover these topics in a material way. But I'm just curious to see from your B2B SaaS experience and how the markets have reacted to AI and the confusion that's happening. Like, what's your general take on the timeline of how the workforce will shift? And sort of, I wasn't around for the .com boom, but it sounds like you very well were. And so, like, how does it relate? What is this moment in time for us, and what's going to shift? I guess it's the same question, really.
I do this discussion every day for the last 3 weeks, and so I'm glad you brought it up. From the conversations I've had, the answer is no one knows. That's the first one. But the second is, there's a few things you can borrow from history and the few things that you can't. The thing you can borrow from history is that I think there's 3 major things that will most likely happen. One is new industry creates new jobs. Every single tech revolution, the automobile industry, there's new auto jobs. Uber might have killed taxis, but then they gave other jobs, right? So there's definitely a repurposing of labor hours to, for example, managing AI agents, right? Mm-hmm. So, or AI security or brokering GPU chips that, so there's that. So a portion of the white collar workforce will just move to a different type of need, which is servicing the AI ecosystem. Okay. The other one that people talk about is the replacement in full of. I think there's no question productivity, from a pure, efficiency and labor standpoint is going to go up. Here's what's going to happen, in my opinion. The owners of businesses how are they incentivized? Profit. So if you said a bookkeeper is $80,000, $60,000 that you can now spend for $200, what do you think the owner is going to do? Nothing against the bookkeeper. So the air quote, what I call junior specialists, will probably have to do something else. Or one bookkeeper does 10 companies rather than one. Either way, there will be job losses in traditional, more what I call specialized. So the irony is specialized, if it's not physical, is where the first AI replacement happens. Summarizing, writing, note-taking, paralegal, all the bottom of each of the specialties. Highly strategic will be the last. So the $2,000 an hour litigator lawyer is going to be last, but the summarizer clerk is going to be first. Okay. So there is just going to be that. There is going to be, I think, loss there. And once again, they either go to repurpose at another place. And the other one is, we'll leave behind the ones that, air quote, no jobs to go to. But the other one is those who lean into AI. So at the Operators Guild, we're going to create a series, because that's what we actually do, is how to become invaluable. Because who's left? So if you're an owner, you have employees. Who are the employees that you leave? The ones that are the most invaluable. Yep. How? Because they have embraced AI. So, and if you do that, which I'm going to take it back, you should lean in. So your initial gut was correct. Now, you're also an owner. So I'm going to just be very blunt. If it's an owner of a business that has value and keeps generating it, you're probably safer. The business owners of old companies that don't provide, that is at risk. So we kind of talked about trying not to be an employee. I know that sounds easy, not hard. I mean, that's not easy. Owning the value creation, because when it's productivity, it's less employees. So anyways, and the last part is the people that can't find jobs. I do think that is something that worries me, that I think government policy and stuff is not ready for. But this time is different. I don't think it's as like repurpose everything. I think there is a sector of people's skill sets that owners are not going to be forced to be hiring people. But I do think the government might have to step in, is one of my guesses.
Yeah. It's not too dissimilar to this event that I was at in Miami last week, where one of the guys who's really been following this for many, many years was saying that probably one of the toughest aspects of it is there's going to be a lot of these people that will not be able to find jobs and repurpose their capabilities and their skill sets. And a lot of these people will be sort of later in life, and that's going to be probably one of the most negative downsides of what is to come. Yeah, it's so far. I mean, I could sit and have a conversation with you for the next 2 hours and leave record on. I mean, Casey, thank you so much for making the time, for getting up early. And yeah, I mean, I leave here with so many answers, but also so many more questions. And I'd love to spend more time picking your brain and showing you some of the things we're working on, because I see what you see. I'm really... just one last point on the AI piece is that shift that I'm already seeing for us. One of the things that I said to my consulting team is that our goal should be to make our business redundant. How do we make all the things that used to take us 6 months, take us 4 weeks? And then layering that on is, once you can free up that time, how can we then become far more strategic in areas that we haven't played before? So sort of increasing that sort of value chain and service delivery, and becoming invaluable to things that we're now connecting the dots that others couldn't, because you have the IP moat, or sort of the data layer that I look at it, is if you can craft that unique and have that model continue to evolve on itself, it allows you to create far more value in far less time. The one challenge that I see in all of this is, we used to charge whatever, $40,000, $50,000 for as a project.
Yep.
How the hell am I going to charge the same price when it's going to take us 2 weeks? And is that what I want? Like, it's like, I can't get my head around like the financial modeling of what business is going to look like into the future. So you know what? If you've got a few minutes, I'd love to hear that last thought, and then we can wrap it up.
Candidly, I read recently that consulting, which is very human-based, is probably needs to evolve quite significantly. I have a thesis that one of the things I keep seeing is the biggest trend that's happening in business, in my opinion, is the monolith is breaking into fragment. So a weird example is Instagram. It used to be marketing agencies. When you want to market, and then came Facebook, and now came influencers. What's happening? One big company or two big monoliths are breaking into individuals. What's happening in tech? It used to be, Sun Microsystems or Microsoft or Google creating products. Now, look at Lovable, look at Replit, look at all these companies that you can just create your own code. The whole trend is going to the individual. So that's where I think there's going to be a lot more small winners. So singles, doubles, singles, doubles, singles, doubles. I made an app. There's a lot more distribution of value versus IBM gets all the money. So that's one that's happening and you're an entrepreneur. So finding another solution and problem is, one, a lot easier now because of the cost is easier to do. The tricky part is there's more competition, but I think the answer is fragmentation. there's going to be a lot more small winners and a lot more, and then the big shops have to evolve to hyper productivity and highly strategic. So that's just, we don't have enough time for that, but that's going up the chain. So someone said something like the $20,000 an hour lawyer, right? It's like, there's like, it's like
super. I see it.
So junior goes to middle goes to higher. So who's left? And then after that is like, who really is left, right?
I'm not even going to open up the conversation about what happens to the future of workforce, because that's a whole conversation. Listen, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've gone over here, Casey, and I'm clearly seeing like how far we could take this, but I just can't thank you enough for making the time. And I've really, I've loved this. I know the audience will love it. And this has just been great.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.